Hi there, it's Astrologue with roseanddaggersoundworks. This is a favorite instrument of mine. This is my Squire Thinline Tele. Obviously, I have added the Jazzmaster tailpiece and bridge assembly. I have modded the electronics out. I have swapped these out for broadcaster pickups. I'm not going to dwell on that too much because I've got videos up on both of my other channels right over here. Yes, even on the Dead Name channel, there is a video of this guitar. It plays fine, it plays great. It's having a little issue with grounding where the series position on the switch works intermittently, which I suspect is due to contacting the foil grounding that I put inside of the body cavity. So one of the things I'm going to do is reline that cavity using the paint that I now have that I didn't when I did this project. The other thing that's more immediate attention is, as you can see, the collet on this tailpiece here has come loose. It's kind of fallen in. It doesn't work to hold a wiggle stick anymore. So what I'm going to do is try to take this tailpiece apart and repair that. It's probably a question of tightening down a bolt. I should specify that this is the first time I've ever had to work on one of these tailpieces. I have them currently on 3 guitars. This one, my Jaguar, my Jazzmaster, obviously. And they're not expensive tailpieces. The 2 on the offset guitars are stock Squire tailpieces. This one is a Stuart McDonald Golden Age, I think they called it. And it is the one that failed. Nothing on Stuart McDonald. They are a great company. They make good stuff. But this guitar has seen some things. So anyways, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pop these strings off. I'm going to take this guitar apart because that's what I need to do to get the pick guard off because it goes under the fretboard. Not a good design decision, folks. Not one that I would make with my own guitars, but this is Fender probably we were talking about for the design here, so blame them. Anyways, let's get started. Alright, so I have taken the neck off, I've taken the strings off, not necessarily in that order. I'm not going to show you that because trade secrets and I'd have to kill you and all that. Also, you've probably seen it a billion times before. So let's get this pick guard off and let me show you what I'm talking about with the electronics here. Okay, so I wanted to point out a couple things. One is that obviously I have taken a Tele bridge and modified it to work with the Jazzmaster style bridge. Actually, this is a more or less Mustang style bridge that I put in there. I am, by the way, going to be modding this out the same way that I did on my Jaguar. Video already exists, it's up here, so I'm not going to dwell on that. The other thing is that I have slightly routed this out in that I have added a channel back when my routing skills were a little more questionable. Right here, just for the neck pickup wires to pass through. You will see I've also taped those down on the underside here so they fit in the channel. Why Fender didn't do this in the first place, I don't know. This was 70s Fender. It's the only Tele I've actually taken apart. From what I understand, the original Teles were like this as well. They just had solid here with a drilled out channel between the neck pickup and the, I think it was the control cavity, could be the bridge pickup. Anyways, you'll see I've got tin foil both on the bottom of the pick guard here and in the body cavity itself. Now I'm going to leave what's on the pick guard because if it ain't broke. But this stuff here seems to be our problem. I've even added, see if I can peel this up without tearing it apart. I've added some foam to see if I could just isolate the switch from the grounding material. Doesn't look like that's coming up, so I'm just going to try taking up the foil, which is not attached super securely here. I glued it down with some cyanoacrylate, crazy glue to the uninitiated. So I'm just going to try to rip all this back out again. It stuck down pretty good on the bottom, but the sides didn't really work as well. Which is one of the things I suspect is that the foil on the sides may have started intermittently contacting the specifically where the 2 wires connect for the series connection. which means that it grounded out the bridge coil, essentially making that another neck pickup position for all intents and purposes, which is, you know, not great. You know, it was functional, it worked, but it didn't have series like I intended it to, so, or at least not consistently. So we're going to try again with the grounding and do it a little bit more cleanly this time. This stuff is taking a little bit of elbow grease, but it is tearing out pretty easily. So it's not a bad way to ground a guitar out. You just have to be a little bit careful with clearances, particularly if you're using blade switches or push-pull pots, which this has both of. That's one instance where the CTS push-pulls are definitely better because they're plastic on the bottom. If the bottom contacts anything, it's not going to matter. Typically, though, the bottom on a pot casing is going to be a ground anyway, so it contacting ground is not that big of a deal, other than, you know, any physical wear it might cause over time, which is probably minimal. Let me find my knife here. I just had this thing. There it is. Now, be very careful when you're doing this, because unless it's under the pick guard, any scratches you cause here are going to be with you. Well, even if they are under the pick guard, any scratches you cause here are going to be forever. It's just a question of, is everybody going to see them? And this guitar is not unscratched to begin with. I've got a scratch here, I've got dings here. So it is lightly road-worn, relic, you might say. Naturally relict. Alright, this bit is being stubborn. This bit in particular, see if I can just get started on it. Maybe I'll have something to peel from. See if I can just freaking... Plan B is just to leave whatever I can't get off on here and just paint over it, but that's less than ideal. Okay, let me work on this for a bit. Give the rest of it a break. And I could realistically leave this in the pickup cavity, but I don't know. I just feel like doing the whole thing. Make it match where nobody but me and God are gonna know, and the rest of the world now, because it's up on the internet forever. I'm just very carefully picking at this stuff that's on the surface here. The other thing I'm trying to do is get this pick guard to sit a little bit flatter. I don't know how much difference this is going to make, but it can't hurt. And as I will be painting over where the foil was, I'm not too concerned about scratching. I just don't want to go over where the pick guard's going to actually cover. This channel is going to be the hard part because it's, as I said, a little bit rough. I didn't bother sanding it out or anything because, you know, I was a little punk rock back then. I still am more than a little punk rock, but in an Osmonds kind of way. Let's see if underneath the actual controls we've got it cleared out enough. Maybe I'll just paint over the rest of that, since, you know, it's just going to be double shielding it, really. Oh, or maybe I'll get lucky here. That's right, folks, I'm getting lucky with the Telecaster. You heard it here first. And broadcasting it on the internet. Alright, so you will see that I've gotten the majority of the foam and the foil out. everything that's left is going to be in a position that doesn't really matter to my control layout, so I'm not too worried about it. And I've got some extra glue globbed on there. I knew from my start that this was not going to be the cleanest job in the world, but again, my route. This was me probably about 15 years ago-ish. No, it would have been more like 10 when I took this apart. I almost want to... Should I quick connect this? We've got basically 1, 2, 3, 4. Nah, I'm not going to worry about that right now. If I ever rewire it, I'll quick connect it, but for the time being, let's just go ahead and put some shielding paint on. I'm going to shake this up a bit before I open it, because I've always been an agitator. You get it? Because I'm agitating the... Never mind. Alright. Now let's get started with this. Nice oily black crude Texas tea oil, that is. Or whatever. And we'll just slather it on. There's no real rhyme or reason to this. We just want to get a good coat on. Everything should look black by the time we're done. Well, everything inside of the control cavity anyways. I suppose if you really wanted to, you could take your time, you could do a proper paint job with this. That's definitely a thing you could do. I guess it might make sense if you had a clear pick guard on. But again, this. Ain't nothing you can do about that once it's there. Except route it bigger, I guess, but if it ain't broke. Now some of this stuff on the inside does have paint on it. As a matter of fact, most of the sides inside do have paint on it. And it's a little bit hydrophobic, so the paint is not wanting to stick as much. But again, it's something that you can usually solve by just slathering it on. And I'm starting with the pickup cavity because it's shallow and I can get a good look at what I'm doing. And you'll notice I'm slopping a bit over the edges. Most of that is intentional. I want to get good contact between the pick guard and the actual body ground to connect it all as one basically big tin can. That's what's going to keep out our radio interference, which is what causes the 60 cycle hum and other nastiness like that. I've had situations where I actually picked up radio broadcasts either through the wiring of the guitar or the wiring of the amplifier at that point. I'm not sure which. It was an old Hohner bass, Telecaster guitar copy bass, as opposed to Telecaster bass copy. And it was a Squier Sidekick 65, I believe. If you're curious, that has since malfunctioned and I've gotten rid of because it wouldn't fit when I moved, basically. Also, I had upgraded the amp significantly at that point in time. So you'll hear me gripe about a lot of stuff I had to let go of when I moved, and that's the price of living simply, is that you don't get to keep everything. At least if you're a privileged American like me. So again, we're just going to start with the bottom here. Make sure that's got a good thick coat on it. I apologize if my big fat head is in the way. It's where my eyes are. I know, shocking. And I'm not worrying too much if I paint the outside of these wires because they're already insulated. Where you would need to worry is if you're contacting any actual hot points in the wiring, which I believe is what was happening before. Ergo, why I am doing this now. so that that won't happen. And once this gets the paint on it, it looks a little bit less crappy for not having gotten all the excess off. And if that does at some point come off, then you can just paint in the holes and it'll be okay. This paint, from what I've seen, is really the way to go. It's durable, it's easy to use, you don't have to cut it to fit. There's another little bit of foil in there. So it's, especially if you're starting out doing some of this stuff yourself, it's a good way to start. Oh, I did incidentally, I routed the body cavity a little bit deeper because I needed to for the push-pull pots and the switch that I was using, which is a super switch, so that I can get the options that I want out of it. Again, more info on the other channel on that. It's interesting to me that on the early Thinline Teles, the ones with the single coils, which was the 69 to 70 if I recall correctly, they actually kept the same channel route as they used on the standard Tele and just skewed it a little bit. So all your controls are actually more or less in a line on this, the same way they would be on a normal Telecaster. They're just a little bit more, what's the word I'm looking for, ergonomic in the way that they're laid out. I know the hardcore Tele guys are going to really come down on me in the comments below, but you know what? If you want to comment below and or go down on me, then that's not a problem. And I have loved Teles, honestly, since the first time I heard about them. Took me a while to actually get one because they have a rightly earned reputation for many of them being super, super heavy and not ergonomic. I'm going to just get the jack channel in here, making sure I don't actually get the contacts on the jack, because that would be bad. And we're going to hit this with another coat when we're done here and it fully dries. Matter of fact, I'm going to see if I can flip this around so I can see the other side where I'm painting it. It's one of the reasons I wire most things with quick disconnects is so you don't have to deal with this kind of stuff or desoldering. I'm taking shortcuts here. Normally I would recommend desoldering on a job like this, but I just can't be bothered right now. And again, this is my own instrument. If this were somebody else's, I would be a hell of a lot more professional than this. But I don't care as long as it plays good and as long as it sounds good, and that won't affect either of those things. Except insofar as it takes any hum out of the sound, which, you know, to me is an improvement. It'd be interesting to wire one of these up to where you could just entirely remove the shield ground and just get the contrast. Like if you want that, you know, like live recording hum on stuff, you know, just to freak people out, you could just unswitch your ground and get the hum. I might actually play around with that, if for instructional purposes, if nothing else. Let me know in the comments if you would like to see that, and I will do my best to accommodate. Okay, make sure that I just got all my gaps here. Just kind of slathering on some excess paint, especially where the foil is, because that's not aesthetically appeasing when it shines through like that. I think that, oh, that's just a ridge in the wood. This was not the cleanest routing job to begin with. and it's a Squire. Those facts probably correspond with each other. So again, I'm not super worried. Okay, so it is later in the day. I have spent some time driving around and making some money, and now I don't have the glare behind me, which is nice. But a couple observations to make before we move on with this project. One is that I have gone ahead and blocked everything that I think could be grounding out with electrical tape. Just add another barrier so that stuff doesn't contact ground that's not supposed to contact ground. Secondly is I have finished my bridge modification, like so. I go through this in more detail in my other video, but essentially 3 holes, a set of Tele saddles, you're good to go. Strings go through the holes and then over the saddles, kind of locks them into place so that they move with the strings, but they don't slide around on the strings like a normal bridge would. I find it works really well. If you want to dive bomb and do crazy Neil Young shit on a offset guitar, you probably should give this a shot. It's cheap, and if you don't like it, it's easily reversible except for those 3 holes. The other thing is that the astute among you will have noticed that there is one place on this guitar that I neglected to shield, and that is here. Under the bridge pickup is where I drew some blood. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. By the time the first coat is on and I've done the second coat on everything else, I'm hoping that it's dry enough to do the second coat on that, and then move on, close everything up, and be done with this project. I also have managed to misplace my good brush, so I'm using my kind of crappy one right now. Sorry, this is not giving you a very good view of it. I'm going to try to kind of get this side and then turn it around so that you can get a better view. I've got wood chips in here. $73, for what it's worth, is printed inside of this cavity before I'm covering it up. Is probably like a inspection number. If anybody is curious, this is the Squire Vintage Modified Thinline Tele, the first one they came out with, because there have been several. And of course, it came stock with a normal ashtray bridge, with normal Tele pickups, and normal Tele wiring. But that's just boring. And the next thing we are going to do is take off this tremolo assembly. I think I've walked you through this before, but the external 6 screws are the ones you need to worry about as far as removing the actual unit. So those are the ones I'm going to unscrew first. And these are hefty screws, which is nice. They know the tremolo is solidly anchored down into the body, which I think is one of the things that really helps with the tuning stability on these guys. And yes, if set up right, these are extremely stable tremolos, especially when you combine them with my bridge mod, or a mastery bridge or something like that, or dropping a screwdriver. That definitely helps your tuning stability. Try it. And of course, I had to route the guitar out for this. This is not a true thin line. I mean, a true thin line basically would have a hollow body here and a hollow body here, which you can see this one does not. Obviously, there's a cavity that goes into nothing on the sides because it is solid on the treble side. Notwithstanding, it gives you enough of that lightness and it gives you enough of that thin line tone for my purposes. My green PRS, by the way, is a very similar setup. Incidentally, this is mostly off camera, but I have a bunch of these plastic bins that I put my parts in when I'm working on stuff, so I don't lose them, and I can close it up in between so they don't spill out, and you know, as long as I don't lose the tray, I don't lose my little screws and stuff. Which is especially nice when you're looking at the little pick guard screws or the springs and screws for the actual pickups, because those are tiny and get lost frequently and can be a pain to replace, surprisingly. There used to be a place close to where I live called the Screw Shop, insert joke here, that sold nothing but screws, and I could basically take an old pickup into there and get a replacement screw that would work. However, they have closed down. They're a specialty place. I thank the rise of the internet for that, as well as the Lowe's that I used to go to, which had a similar setup where you could, check out the thread on various screws and get exactly what you need. So here we have it. This is your underside of a Jazzmaster tremolo. You have this obviously large faceplate, and then you have your actual base plate or string holder, or I don't know what they call this bit, but basically this rocks back and forth, tensioned by this spring down here, which is adjustable through this middle screw here. This particular one has a locking system that works just like that. You slide it back, and under this, obviously it's under tension right now and I can't get it wide enough to actually work, and it doesn't work great, honestly. I just leave it open because it seems to work better that way. But I guess if you broke a string or something, you could go ahead and engage it and it would at least be close to in tune without you having to tune it. So now we're going to see what we have here. It looks like we might be missing. How does that work? Does that just screw right up like that? I think it does. Okay, so this particular Jazzmaster tremolo, let me undo that and redo it just to show you. So we have this collet, which you'll see is fancy. So it's got the smooth outer end that you can see right there. It's got a section that is threaded. It has got a section of what is essentially a bolt head here. And then it has this end section, which is basically perforated. I don't know what the term for that is, but it's splayed out. It's got slots cut in it. The idea is that is the bit that is going to grip the end of the whammy bar. And with a lot of these cheaper tremolos, I'm just going to show you the arm on this. Because what I've done, this is a very common fix for these when the arm just falls down and doesn't stay put where you put it, is you just take a pair of pliers, like this but bigger, basically. You take that, you hold this end, and you just put a very slight bend in the end of it. I don't know if you can see that, but it's bent enough to where it maintains tension on that collet and that it doesn't fall, which is very, very nice. It feels like a professional grade Fender tremolo, and it's a mod that will take you literally a minute to do. So well worth doing. You do not have to take the tremolo off to do it. But that said, so this threaded portion on the collet here is going to, first I'm going to put the lock washer on there, which will help to maintain the tension, and then it actually threads directly into the plate on this one. There are probably models where you have an external nut on the top. Don't quote me on that, but it would stand to reason that there probably are ones set up like that. I believe this one is vintage spec. It's what it was advertised as anyways. Whether they bothered going full accuracy on the internal mechanisms nobody will see, I don't know. But that collet is now solidly back on there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean this up and I'm going to put it aside, and when the paint is dry I'm going to put it back together. Hey folks, it's a few days later. I was not sure whether I wanted to do a sound demo on this one. However, when I took it apart, got it all back together, I found out that the bridge pickup was out on it. Which is a shame because it was not a cheap pickup and a fairly new one. But I'm going to talk this one up to physical damage. I might have inadvertently snapped something, although I don't see any compromised connections on this. I may try to salvage it later. If you guys want to see me try to fix a pickup, let me know in the comments below, please. I took the opportunity to sneak in the pickup that I ordered for my prototype guitar, which is a Creamery tap Tele bridge. So this is a Alnico 2 magnet like a broadcaster. It's got a tap position that is voiced more like a standard Tele bridge, and it's got a full position which is voiced more like a broadcaster pickup. I quite enjoy the way this sounds. I should hope so, since I specifically ordered it for that. Verdict is out on whether this is staying in this guitar or not, or whether I move it to the prototype as previously planned. But in any case, I thought that enough had changed since my previous demos that I would go ahead and do another one, at least showcasing the various bridge-related positions. So hold on to your hats, you're going to need them, because it's raining.
Okay, folks, so that's it. I hope you enjoyed it or learned something, or at least have something witty to add in the comments below. Till next time, this has been Astrid with Rose and Dagger Soundworks. Stay beautiful.